What's up, YouTube? It's your boy Skinny Moose, and tonight we are talking about how what got me into wrestling. So I was born in more or less the late '90s. WWF, the Kane Big Show rivalry, the whole ECW and end of ECW, I guess, kind of middle. Um, and then like 2005. Carnage Cup come around, so I was like 6 years old. I was like 6 years old. So like before then, I was watching ECW with my uncle, and it was my grandfather and my uncle, and my parents. Well, my mom, not my parents, but my mom, my grandpa, my pretty it. I would watch like WWE and stuff, and at one point, I had a pair of wrestling tights, and every time wrestling would come on, my uncle would tell me go get my wrestling tights, and I put them on and climb up on the couch and watch my wrestling. That was my earliest memory. I was like, well, like toe, between toe and three. I don't remember like having wrestling tights. I have a picture, and they was black and running through the house, to go watch me wrestle. As I aged, my favorite wrestler from WWE out of all the years has always been The Undertaker. Well, when I was about 6 years old, 6 years old, yeah, I was about 6 years old, I got introduced to Dick South. And, I was like, what's this? And well, I can't really say I got introduced to it. More like I walked in the living room, seen it, and I was like, okay. And I was like, what's this? And then being a kid with the curious mindset, you decide you want to watch more of it. So at that time, that's the only one we had, or my mom's ex-boyfriend had. So as I aged, I started to watch more and more of different styles of wrestling, and I kind of bared away from the death matches because I was a kid and I didn't know what I was really looking for. I knew like ECW, hardcore and stuff. And then as I became a teenager, 13, 14, 15 years old, I started getting more back into it. And I was like, ECW. And then I was like, Japan. And I was like, what about it? I remember a promotion with this, and there was the Confederate flag and, the big Necro Butcher and the guys at the time, '05. So I looked it up, and all I really remember is like bits and pieces of it. And I found Deep South, and I started watching. I was like, hey, I've seen this show before. It's like '05 show. It's a kid. And then like as I, aged up, I went until I was like, well, I was still watching mainstream wrestling, WWE and TNA, Lucha Underground. Just not much indie wrestling. I watched a lot of indies on and off. And I was about 17, 18. I just completely quit watching mainstream wrestling. And I stepped back into, my death matches. And I had a very on and off life. And ever since then, I have been all about my indie wrestling, all about my death matches. Um, when most people look at wrestlers, they're like, okay, they're wrestlers, they're here to entertain me. I'll buy their merch. I really, really like them, or this and that and the other. Me, with my mindset, I have a bad habit of getting attached to a wrestler. And then when they retire or they pass away or something, I just fucking lose my shit. Um, when I had nothing And I mean, absolutely nothing to lose. Wrestling was my safe haven. Wrestling has always been there for me. When I was at my wits and I couldn't do it anymore, wrestling was there to save me. Um, I know a lot of my indie stuff because, like I said, in a lot of my death matches, I watched it on and off growing up, and then I have sat down over the years and just absorbed what I could. And the reason why the channel started was because me and Squirrel always watched death matches together, and we sat back and was like, if we ever sit here and talk to this guy, we're gonna ask him this, or we're gonna ask him that. And a lot of the guys that we have talked about, we've sat down and got to pick the minds up. And that's just the start, ladies and gentlemen. There is many people that I have in the works, Squirrel has in the works, that we're talking about. I will tell y'all some Anthrax, Raven Havoc, uh, Kevin, Brandon, Boris Dookie, Jay Blade, and a few more um, that we have been thinking about. Well, Jay Blade's confirmed, Raven's confirmed, but we like sharing our knowledge, what we know, and a bunch of friends. It's like, you're just a walking encyclopedia about wrestling. And I'm like, I love it. I love what I do. I love having the opportunity to sit in front of y'all and share my honest opinions, my honest thoughts, and the fact that y'all just listen, more or less, I guess. It means a lot to me. And, you know, I've always wanted to do something within the field of wrestling, within the community of wrestling, or whatever. I wanted to be a wrestler at one point. In between having nose damage and permanent scar in my head, I don't think I'm gonna be able to wrestle. I've thought about being a ref, but I enjoy being the podcaster. I enjoy hearing the stories and talking to people. Um, I'm actually trying to get my license in the process of that. A lot of stuff's been going on behind the scenes though, but we're going to put out just as much. 2025, the beginning of 2025 for me was I wasn't mentally or emotionally okay. Um, in between moving and getting him in a dark place and some other things, I totally lost myself. And then when Rob messaged me and Squirrel and they come together and wanted to do a JD interview part two, I kind of got pulled out of the dark place. And then I got woke up and I'm back. I'm better than ever. Um, Jay Blade's interview part two is going to fucking kill it. I have been working on Kevin's questions. These, I have been so into it lately. Um, but yeah, what really, how I really feel about a wrestler is like, okay, John Cena, like having cancer. I can relate to that. I've had family that had cancer. Shit, I lost my grandmother to cancer. And it's kind of, he's all right. I hope he's all right. Um, he was like, oh, well, shit, he can live with it and shit. And then when people retire, I grew up watching them. And some people's like, well, they're still alive. And I'm like, yeah, but like, You know, they just entertained me for 18, 20 years. You know, how the hell am I supposed to not feel about them? I'm a pretty chill person. Um, Wrestling, basically, besides my kids, wrestling runs my life. I love my wrestling. If I was stranded on an island and I had to choose between talking to somebody, like, people, or watching wrestling 24/7, I am happy with my fucking wrestling. Um, as I said before, I'm in the works of some things. If y'all got any ideas or whatever, y'all drop them in the comments. Yeah, I grew up like what really gets me is like I was all into the Mankind, Mick Foley, Undertaker. You know, I was all into the blood and all that good shit and Japan and all that. I'm all about I've always been into more of, even though I like technical wrestling, I've always been into more blood aspect of wrestling. And I know you got to have technical wrestling to have a good hardcore match or death match, and that's true. But it's just something that sucks me off, soothes me. A lot of people's like, wrestling's fake. And what I tell people is like, yeah, wrestling's fake, but if you go check out the wrestling that I watched, the people that I talk to, wrestlers that I fuck with, it's not really fake. It's not fake at all. Them light tube shots are real. You know, them guys get in there and they don't ballet and toot toot. And a lot of other wrestlers that I've had on the channel has literally said they love a stiff match. I wouldn't want to go to more shows. I literally do. My main problem though is I do not drive. So getting to shows is the problem. I'm in the process, as I said before. I'm trying to get my license and get everything together. I was trying to get them at one point, and then fucking COVID hit, so that fucked everything up. But aside of that, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be producing. I know I said this before, a whole lot of more content. Um, I've been watching a lot of the Carnage Cups again. Um, in between trying to review them and do questions for Kevin at the same time, it's been kind of challenging. So that's what's taking so long on the Carnage Cups. Although I'm about to just, I got a lot of questions for Kevin. Um, I do want to get a hold of AJ Frost at some point later on down the road. I got some questions for AJ, but later on down the road, I'll get a hold of AJ, interview AJ. If they got enough matches up, feel free to hit me up. I'll interview just about anybody. Um, I enjoy what I do. I enjoy picking the minds of wrestlers. And another thing that I'd like to mention is we're getting ready to fucking start featuring y'all's questions. So drop them. And see if they get featured on the fucking channel. I'll ask them. Somebody will ask them for you. Give you full credit if you want us to. But thank you, ladies and gentlemen. What does wrestling mean to me? I really don't know how to answer that question. I'll just go like this, and we'll go from there. Was me always being a fan of wrestling, and it always saving me. I guess it's the reason why I sit down, and another reason why we made the channel Deathmatch Avengers is because I like to give the wrestlers a safe space to tell stories, to share their minds, to shoot the shit, to be more open. The channel is all shoot. So I like to pick their minds, pick their brains, and honestly ask them questions that they wouldn't think they would be asked. And they know that they got a fan base and they know that people watches them, but I've had a few workers be like, I've never thought that question would arouse. And I'm like, it's just for them to share their stories and to have the time to take out their schedule and to sit down for, an hour, 2 hours, 2.5 hours, and let us pick their minds and them just open up. It's something that I never thought that I'd be able to do. Um, and then for the longest, hang on, I was like shy or scared or whatever to message the wrestlers. And I've had so many of them be like, don't be scared. What's the least we're gonna say? No. And I'm like, well, y'all are some scary people. And they're like, and I just, shoot us a message. And here lately, I've been, getting in the minds and doing a little more research and going back and looking and seeing like who do I want to pick the mind of next. I got some part twos in mind. I got some, first times in mind. Matter of fact, I'm gonna drop a name right now, Brad Cash. I've been watching a lot of Brad Cash lately. Sarah Dox, Travis Dykes. I've always wanted to interview Travis Dykes. Um, I don't know, JW Dalton, all them TPW boys are just fucking out there. At one point, I did want to interview the IWA Mid South locker room. I still kind of do. There's a lot of good people that come out of there. I've actually, for those of you that don't know, I did shoot Ian a message that didn't fall through. He's like, no, I'm not interested. But what it means to me is, I guess you would sort of say, I love that I've always had, and it's something that I lean on or go to. Pick the minds of the workers, share my stories, share their stories, and listen to their stories because, like I said, there's been things that's been mentioned on cam and off cam that I won't say that I'll take to my grave. And some of these people that I have interviewed, we have become good friends, and I talk to daily. Or I've had wrestlers get my DMs and check on me, and I'm like, yo, that means a lot. Thank you. I kind of feel stupid, and I guess it's wearing off now. But I've done a lot of interviews over the past year, 2 years, whatever we have. And as I see them in other matches, older matches, I'm like, well, fuck, I should ask them this question. Well, I could get them in a part two. Well, fuck, I should ask them this. Well, I could do it at a part two. I guess it's the point that I've always wanted to, you know, do something with wrestling, as I said. And now that I am, I'm enjoying the fuck out of it. So from a 26-year-old that never thought that comes from nothing, literally, um, that comes from nothing, and literally all I have is a well, two grandparents, my parents, my wife, my kids, and my uncle, and fat squirrel. I got a few friends, my channel boys, but yeah, I really came from nothing, and now the fact that I've made a fan base and people like to sit down and listen, and y'all are just, I don't know, it's something that I never thought I'd have. I mean, I'd done YouTube before, um, channel got deleted, long story, but to be able to sit down and interact and have fans that become your friends and you chat with them and they watch your videos. You talk every day and you send messages on Facebook, you send videos, and it goes from like being fans to being friends to like best friends, like brotherhood. It's just something that I never thought I'd see. Like I said, the Wrestlers has done it. I am. I don't even know what word to use. Like it's on the tip of my tongue. Obliged or whatever. Grateful to have this opportunity to sit in front of this camera and just share. I'm not looking for no guilt trip shit. No shame me or whatever. I'm just sharing my thoughts, sharing a good vibe, sharing a good mood. It's currently 2:46 in the morning. 11/07, 2025. My son just turned 6 years old today. So, but yeah, hit me up with those interviews. If y'all watch the channel, you're a worker, hit me up. Um, I do really good with wrestlers. I've never interviewed a camera person. I've interviewed one referee. Well, I've interviewed a few wrestlers. I've never interviewed a full on referee. Never interviewed a full on camera guy. We've interviewed two fans. Um, see, my thing is, I like to write my questions down because I'm forgetful as fuck. One and two, it just shows more determination and shit for me. Not everybody, but for me it does. To me it does. Whatever. And there's a lot of guys that I'm getting ready to go after. I want to try to get. Like to get Dr. Redacted, but I don't know about that one. Um, shit. I'm looking to pull in some people from out there in Cali. We've had JD twice. So, BC, we've had Carnage, might do a portrait with Carnage. We've had Cougar, might do a portrait with Cougar. Um, I'm looking to get Tarzan. I'm not gonna lie. I like Tarzan. I like his work. I'm just, like I said, I'll say it again. I'm eternally grateful, thankful for those of you that have subbed, for those of you that enjoy what we produce. Um, I know there's people out there and fans out there that's, squirrel fans or moose fans, or both, or just fans of the channel. Eternally grateful for that. I'm thankful for y'all just to sit down, but I got one question. If Moose was to be a commentator, would I be color or play by play? I say color. I can get fucking G Raver on the channel, but I know that ain't gonna happen. Some people has found my Facebook. If you find my Facebook, add me. Yucca can add me on any socials I have. I'm getting ready to make a wrestling Snapchat. I have Insta. I have all kinds of shit. So follow me. But yeah, if y'all wanna, we're thinking about doing a weekly roundtable, starting it up live. So You know, maybe Mondays or Sundays or some shit. Between like, I don't know, no times, like 3 or 5 or some shit. And we just sit and chill. Probably Mondays would be better. We catch up on like wrestling, talk about upcoming cards, not doing prediction videos, but talk about upcoming cards. May mention a match or two, upcoming interviews and stuff, shit like that. Other than that, ladies and gentlemen, Moose is out.